and welcome to TruST TV. I'm Ruth from your communications team. So in the past week, half of the coronavirus cases in Northern Ireland are believed to be linked to the Delta strain of the virus, and the number of cases has more than doubled. It's affecting younger people in the 18 to 40 age range and also young children. So we're joined today by Dr. Frances O'Hagan. She is a GP in Armagh City and has also worked in the COVID centres throughout the pandemic. And I know, Frances, you set up the COVID centre in Dungannon. So you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So in practice, are you seeing more younger patients with COVID now?
We're seeing a huge number of younger patients with temperatures, with sore throats, with coughs, with runny noses. So much more of that has arisen in the last couple of weeks. And the advice is that if you or your child has any of these symptoms, you must get a test. If you do not wish to get a test, then you have to self-isolate for 10 days. You have to presume this is not an ordinary cold. You have to presume that this is COVID until you get a negative test. If you get the test and it's negative, well, then that means that if your child or yourself becomes more unwell and you need to see your GP, well, then you can say to the GP that you have a negative test, and the GP will then be able to bring you safely into the surgery to know that it keep you and the other patients in the surgery safe if you've already been tested.
And are those symptoms you mentioned there any different from the previous strain?
Yes, in the previous strain, the top symptom would have been cough, followed by temperature, followed by loss of taste and smell. In this strain, it's slightly different. The top symptom is temperature, then followed by sore throat, followed by runny nose, then temperature, then cough, and no mention of loss of taste or smell. So that means everyone who thinks they've got tonsillitis, every child that's got a runny nose and a cough must be tested. I emphasize must be tested, because those are the symptoms of this strain. And don't be fooled into thinking, oh, this is an ordinary cough or cold or an ordinary childhood illness. You must get it tested, so that you know whether the child or yourself has got the virus. And also then, if you come in contact with anyone else, for example, if you need to go to the GP, but also if you need to send your child to the nursery or to school, it's really important that you don't send your child into nursery or into school if they have a temperature, a runny nose, or a sore throat.
Do you have many parents coming to you, Frances, who aren't even realizing, they're maybe just thinking it is a normal childhood illness, a summer cold or hay fever? Or
yes, we have a huge explosion of cases in the last couple of weeks of these type of symptoms, and the parents are really quite taken aback when I say to them, you need to get tested. And in fact, I worked in the COVID centre on Monday afternoon, and everyone that I saw had not thought about getting a test. And I mean, the clue is in the title, COVID centre. If you're coming to the COVID centre, you should be getting a COVID test. So anyone who is, especially in children, people are missing a trick with the children. Anyone who's got a temperature, a snotty nose, sore throat and cough, I can't emphasize enough, you must get a test. And you don't do a lateral flow test. Don't do your child's lateral flow test. Those are only for people who don't have any symptoms. You must go and get a proper PCR test. And there is lots of availability. There's plenty of PCR tests available. You will get it the same day and you will get the result tomorrow morning. There's loads and loads and loads of availability. So there's no problem getting a test.
So the PCR test is for when you do have symptoms, and the other test is for when you've no symptoms at all.
Yes, exactly.
Either way, you need to get tested. Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
Don't be ringing me up and telling me, oh, I've done my son's lateral flow test from the school kit. That is not good enough. You must go and get a PCR test if you have symptoms.
Okay. And then what about this other age bracket that are largely being affected? The majority of cases actually at the moment are falling into the 18 to 40 age group. What advice would you have for that age range?
The exact same advice. Anything that feels like a cold or a bit of a snotty nose or, a sore throat. People are coming with sore throats going, I've got tonsillitis, doctor. No, you don't know that. You don't know that because sore throat is one of the top symptoms. And if you get a sore throat, you must get a test. And, I've tonsillitis, doctor, and where are you? Oh, I'm in work, or I'm in school or whatever. No, go home and get a test. You either get a test, and if you really don't want to get a test, you must self-isolate for 10 days. But, I think I've got tonsillitis means equals you must get a test.
Okay. And what about the vaccine then within that age group now that it's open to them?
The vaccine is open to everyone over 18. I would strongly recommend that everybody goes now to get their vaccine who hasn't had it. You've got to remember that we're trying to beat the virus, and to beat the virus, we need everybody vaccinated by the end of August. To do that, anybody who hasn't had their first dose must get it in the next 2 to 3 weeks to be able to have your second dose by the end of August. So we do need to also round this up and finish this vaccine program, because we will have the boosters coming in the autumn. So to finish the vaccine program, we need anyone who hasn't had their first dose to get it within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So this is last chance saloon, guys. Get out there and get your vaccine now. You will not be offered again. You will not be given another opportunity. Oh, I'm going to think about it. That's not good enough. You need to get it, and you need to get it now.
And tell us why it's important, once you've got your first dose, that you must go back and get the second dose. Why is it so important to have both doses of the vaccine?
The evidence shows that you are not well protected from this variant until you have both doses. And one dose does not give enough protection. It only gives like about 30% protection, whereas the second dose, once you've had the second dose for 10 to 14 days after that, it ramps away up till over 90% protection. So, if we're going to stop people getting admitted to hospital and stop people dying, you need to get both doses. And we have reduced the time from the first dose to the second dose. It used to be 12 weeks. We have brought it down to 8 weeks. So that is in trying to get as many people vaccinated as soon as possible and get you protected. So get out there and get your first dose, and absolutely come back and get your second dose.
And this variant is much more transmissible than previous one. Why is that an issue?
That's an issue. If you think about it, our very first wave, one person infected on average 1 or 2 other people. In our second wave, in the Alpha, that was the Kent/Alpha variant, one person infected 3 or maybe at worst 4 people. This Delta variant, one person is affecting 6 to 7 people. So that's why one person in a room can infect so many more people. So that's why it's really, really important to continue to do your social distancing, your face mask, to wash your hands. Do not get complacent. This is not over. And one person is going to infect so many more people than the last 2 variants did. And that's why it's going to transmit so much more.
And it's set to become the dominant strain here.
They reckon it'll be the dominant strain by the end of August, but I think it'll probably be the dominant strain before that, because we only 1 week ago in Northern Ireland, it was the strain of 25% of positive people had it. Within a week, 50% of people who are positive have this strain. So, I don't think it's going to take very long until this is the dominant strain. Way up in the 90%. And if that's the case, then, and you thinking that one person's infecting 6 other people, it's going to spread very, very quickly.
So it's still very much a threat to us.
Oh, absolutely. More than ever. We have to be really careful at this stage. And because, we're doing great on the vaccine, and we have almost 60% of the adult population doubly vaccinated, but there's that 40% who aren't. And there's obviously children who aren't as well. So there's still that ability for this strain to spread. So
finally, give us that advice again, what all of us need to do to drive this virus down.
You need to, first of all, practice your social distancing, wear your mask, wash your hands, and keep your space. That's the first basic rules. Don't stop doing that. Then you need to ensure that if you have any symptoms whatsoever, either you or your child has a temperature, a sore throat, a runny nose, or a cough, you need to get a test, and you need to self-isolate until you have the result of that test. Do not send your child to school. Do not send your child to the nursery. It is really, really important you get a test And only when you have a negative test, then can you send your child back to nursery or your child back to school, or you can go back to work. And it's actually really important for your GP as well. If you have a negative test, your GP can safely bring you in to be seen. Whereas if you don't have a test, then that is putting the other patients in the waiting room at risk if you don't have the test done.
Finally, the vaccine.
Yes, get your vaccine, get your first dose, get it within the next couple of weeks, because the vaccine program is coming to an end. And also then make sure you go back for your second dose. And, you know, there was a lot of cancellations for second doses. Please, please, please be warned, you are not covered against this strain until you have your second dose. Make sure you keep that appointment. It's really important.
Dr. O'Hagan, thank you very much.